most people know you for who you are today, right? You're a social media influencer.
Yes.
You got like, I don't know, like 400K ish on TikTok alone.
Half that. But I
No,
appreciate
I think it's more than that.
No.
Is it only 200?
It's 205.
It feels like 4. Either way,
It's not something I check twice a day.
You got
or
a
anything.
pretty solid following on TikTok.
Yeah.
And people know you in the horror creator world. I mean, obviously, I go to Midsummer Scream. People are telling me, hey, you got to meet Josh. You got to meet Josh. Like, just this amazing dude. And checked out your content. Dude, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Thank you.
But again, people know you for what you're doing now. They don't really get a chance to know you for who you are and who you were. So
Fair.
we usually go back in time and just kind of give people a little bit of context on who our guest is. And
Okay.
so let's go back in time. Who are you? Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? And tell us a little bit about, like, maybe, what kind of kid you were.
Oh man, I was not a cool kid. I was born in Lancaster, California, up in the Antelope Valley.
Good old 661.
Yeah. Lived in Mojave for a while, and then my parents split up when I was young. My mom and I moved to Palmdale for about a year, and then to Colorado for a few months to stay with family before moving to Nebraska for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that was rough. It was lovely. I made some friends, but we were in Gearing, Nebraska, which is this tiny little town in the Panhandle that has like one gas station, one grocery store, one video store. And when we got to McDonald's, the line was like
stoplight.
4 hours long. Yeah, it was nuts. We were in Nebraska for a while. I went through all of elementary school there, and then Kentucky for about a year, and then back to Colorado. And I lived in Colorado Springs for a very long time. And that's where Kimmy and I met. And then I wanted to get out of Colorado. I'm not a winter guy. And so when my mom was like, we're moving to Colorado, and I was like, I don't want to deal with the snow. I don't want to deal with that. She's like, it's not that bad. What you see in the movies, whatever, it's not that bad. And we moved there in October of 1997, right before what people still remember fondly as the blizzard of 97. So like a week after we got to Colorado, the worst snowstorm Colorado Springs had like ever seen hit.
What a way to get introduced.
Yeah. And so I'm walking home from school in snow up to my chest, just like, oh, man, I hate this place. I don't want to be here. And so for a while I was like, I got to get back out to California because I was still visiting my dad several times a year, obviously. And I just missed it so much. And then when Kimmy and I met, I had mentioned wanting to move to Vegas because I love Vegas and it's way cheaper to live in Vegas than it was in California at the time. And she said she also wanted to move to Vegas. So we moved to Vegas, and then we lived there for a couple years and realized we were driving out to California so often to visit and do stuff out here that we were like, let's just make California happen. So we applied for jobs and got out here in 2013 and haven't looked back.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What a journey.
Yeah.
I almost see, like, I would think you're a military kid at that point.
That's what everyone thinks. Like, oh, was your dad in the military? And I'm like, technically, he was in the Air Force, but he wasn't anymore when I was a kid. Like, that's not why I moved. It was completely different reasons.
That makes sense. Lancaster, Mojave, Edwards Air Force Base.
Yeah, my mom was a bartender at Edwards. That's how she met my dad.
Very cool.
They whirlwind romance, got pregnant, went to Vegas, got married at the Little White Chapel, and everything was hunky-dory for a few years. Like, it was obviously divorce isn't usually like amicable, but they still got along great and shared custody and everything. Like I had a pretty solid childhood. I was a weird kid because I was a big nerd. I skipped first grade because of my like test scores and stuff. So which was exciting at the time, but when you're younger than everyone else in your grade for the rest of your school like life, it's weird having to explain it to people.
Getting picked on or something.
So I was a little kid, really thick glasses, just loved to read and loved horror movies because my parents showed me. My mom loved John Carpenter, so I saw like Halloween and The Thing, probably too young. The story I always tell is when I just said, go get me a horror movie, and my dad came back from the video store with Pumpkinhead. Had no idea what it was about, but my nickname around the house was Pumpkinhead. So he was like, it's a movie had your name on it, so I got you Pumpkinhead. And then I went home and watched it, and I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
But I fell in love because it's big puppets and the crazy practical effects. And so I was always into horror movies. I was always reading Goosebumps and watching like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Eerie, Indiana and Tales from the Crypt. And in conservative Nebraska, Kentucky, Colorado Springs, that makes you kind of like a bit of a weirdo outcast. And then in high school in Colorado, the tide started to kind of turn. I made a few friends that were all different types of outcasts and like skater kids and goths and stuff like that. And that became like my close knit friends. And I'm still really good friends with a few of them today, which is awesome. And that's kind of how I started to turn into the person I am now.
So cool, man. I was gonna ask like what your major influences were in horror. So like, can you maybe elaborate on that? Because obviously that's like in your introduction, but like what were the influences?
Big
getting you really in love with the genre.
Oh, for sure. It was definitely like The Thing, and Halloween and the original Nightmare on Elm Street. My mom showed me a lot of classics. Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs was on anytime it was airing. It was on my TV. I was watching that religiously. I watched so many movies with Joe Bob because he was shared a lot of the like Friday the 13th sequels, and then I didn't realize how much I had seen through that until I got older and I rewatched the Friday the 13th franchise, and I was like, oh, I've seen this movie like a dozen times when I was a kid. And then I looked it up and they're like, yeah, that's the one that they used to play on Monster Vision all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay, so that makes sense. I saw Friday the 13th Part 5 that many times. And then Tales from the Crypt was a big one because they would air the edited version of Tales from, they would shoot a PG-13 version of Tales from the Crypt for Fox. And I would record those on VHS tapes and then just rewatch them over and over again. And I loved Tales from the Crypt.
Who didn't? By the way?
Yeah,
Like
it was amazing. But what's crazy is there's like, I just remember the vivid, every time he popped out of the sarcophagus, whatever, at the beginning, scared the hell out of me every time. I knew it was coming, scared the hell out of me every time. And then The Blob is one of my favorite movies of all time. But I remember my mom showed me that as a kid, and there's most people remember like the sink kill, but the car scene is a very graphic. You watch it now and you're like, oh, it's just like a rubber dummy that gets like turned inside out, like cool practical like 80s effects. But
when you're a kid, like
when you're a kid and you see like the way her face reacts, I just remember that moment like scarring me. And I did not watch that movie for years because I was like, no, there's a kill in that movie that's just so brutal. And then I got older and I was like, I want to rewatch The Blob at some point. And it was on streaming and I finally rewatched it. And I was like, oh, this is incredible. This is one of my favorite movies. Like everything about it was perfect. And now it's like a comfort film that I watch like once a month.
That's a comfort film.
Yeah, that one. And then, I remember Return of the Living Dead 3 is also a big one for me because when we were in Colorado visiting family, my cousin, who was like, the older cool cousin who like smoked and probably wasn't doing very well in school or whatever, but you wanted to like look up to him and be cool. He also loved horror movies. And we went to the video store and Return of the Living Dead 3 was on the new release wall. And he was like, we got to rent this one. Like, don't you want to see this one? And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I haven't seen the first two, so I'm not going to be like all caught up. And he's like, it's a completely different, like these movies, you don't need to see the other ones to understand it. Trust me. And I was like, all right, yeah, if I want to make him happy, I'll also say that I want to see Return of the Living Dead 3. So my mom's like, oh, you both want to see the same movie? Okay, well, we'll rent that for you. And I just probably way too young to see that one also, but now that one's like a comfort film. It's incredible. And it's my favorite of the franchise because of that nostalgia, even though the first one's clearly like the best.
For sure. No, I grew up watching a lot of movies that I shouldn't have as a young kid. I grew up in the entertainment world, so just like getting exposed to films that I definitely should not have seen, and having a brother that was 4 years older. You get exposed to stuff just because you're just there, and he's already kind of getting into that space, and it's like, all right, well, I'm in the room. He's not gonna like tell me to get out. And, like my mom's not even there. She's working 2 jobs. It's like, all right, well, whatever you're doing, I'm doing. So
yeah,
it totally changes you. But yeah, that's there is a nostalgia about like going into a video store.
Oh yeah.
And just walking in, it smells different. Like, but how much time would you spend like in your hometown video store, just like kind of perusing through, and like, what was your thought process when you were trying to pick out a film? Was it like, did you try to go around the outside, which is kind of typically where the newer stuff was, or did you like to kind of spend more time in the middle?
I was a bit of I was usually around the outside walls, new release stuff. I would always try to be, I got more mindful as I got older and realized that like not everything, there's the moment as when you're a kid and you see your first like bad movie that you know is bad. And you're like, oh, not every movie is great. Because when you're 6 and your parents take you to the theater, whatever you saw, you were like, that was the best movie ever.
Yeah.
And for like the next 2 months, Men in Black 2 is my favorite movie of all time.
And for people that don't know what a video store is, it's very similar to scrolling through a streaming service.
Yeah, exactly.
Except you actually got to walk through and touch movies.
Like imagine the user interface for Netflix, but it's on a wall, and you can actually grab each of those thumbnails and pull them off the shelf.
Do you want to scroll to the left? You got to take a couple steps.
You got to move. The one we had in Nebraska was Sun Mart. That was our grocery store, and we had the video section that I would go to all the time. And I remember like the Ghoulies cover art where he's coming out of the toilet vividly. We rented Monster Squad like once a week because that was my favorite movie ever. Drop Dead Fred was another one that I would rent regularly. Dick Tracy was another one I really loved. Oh, yeah. Not a horror movie, but obviously I was just obsessed. But yeah, I would usually just go for fun cover art or certain monsters that I was attracted to. Like I was a huge vampire guy. I was Dracula for Halloween for like 4 years in a row. So anything that had a vampire on the cover, I'd usually grab. And then as I got older, when we moved to Colorado, I was 10, 11, 12 going to the Blockbuster Video down the street. And I would start browsing some of the older stuff. And so I remember the cover art for like Dagon still burned into my memory. I still haven't watched that movie. I keep meaning to. But the cover art stuck out to me. And I rented American Psycho and didn't understand it. Like, I mean, I kind of understood it, but I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be like a slasher movie. And I'm watching it at 12 years old, like, what is this? So he wasn't a psych? What? And now I've rewatched it and I'm like, oh, this is also a masterpiece. I love it. But I remember I rented House of the Dead because I loved that video game so much and brought it home. And like half an hour into that movie, I was like, I don't think this is a good movie. Like this has nothing to do with the game. They're like partying on it. What happened? What's going on here? And that was one of the things. It was that and seeing Mortal Kombat Annihilation in theaters when I was like, oh, sometimes they just make bad movies and
it happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
And there was that weird in-between period where I was a very like arrogant elitist about film. And I was like, these remakes are bad and these movies are bad and everything. And I don't know what changed or what clicked in my brain, but like 10 years ago, I was like, that's not a really fun way to live. I think I'm just going to try liking everything. And now I love bad movies and because just making a movie in general is a miracle. Like, even if it didn't turn out well, the fact that you got this on a shelf
100%.
Next to like Hellraiser and stuff, that's awesome. Good for you. I'm happy. You've done more than I have. Like, you made a bad House of the Dead movie. I didn't make a movie at all, and it's still entertaining. So
yeah, our friends that made Stupid Games, they made that for under 10 grand. I think it was like $7,800. It was their final budget of what they actually produced it for. But they had it when we premiered it on the Momitu. It was literally sitting there in our horror section right next to Halloween. And they screenshot it and sent it to me. They're like, this is so cool. Like, thank you so much. Like, we made a film, but it's like to have it just sitting on the shelf in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Next to one of the arguably the best horror film that, at least for me. But it's sitting right next to it. They're just like, this is so cool. This is just amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is something about like looking at, and not just like low budget films, but even like films from the 80s and 90s that are just like people are stringing together money to make a film and put a project together. It's very hard to do that.
Yeah.
To get it all done. And there's so many films that get made and never get finished. Like, people don't understand how much work it goes into making a film. Thanks for spending your time with us today on the More For Me and You podcast. If you've made it to the end, we appreciate you. Now, go do us a quick favor. Please like, comment, and share this episode. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode with the incredible guests we have coming up. You can also follow us at Momi2 Podcast on Instagram and on TikTok. Oh, and for your next movie night, check out the Momi2 app. It's free and packed with amazing movies and shows you've probably never seen. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you in the pod.